David, this week's Positive Regression episode, it was all about a discussion about the mile-and-a-half tracks, an ode to them, what they've been in the past, what they may mean in the future, because the pathway to a championship does not go through mile-and-a-half tracks anymore. But what can we learn from them? We're going to Atlanta this weekend, another mile-and-a-half track. What can be learned from mile-and-a-half tracks?
I think we can learn which teams and which programs have solid solid engine programs. And maybe for some of the mid-pack teams, which teams specifically focused on 550 tracks and mile-and-a-half tracks are a part of that, just as a way to pad points and try to get them into the playoffs. Now, once they're in the playoffs, a lot's going to change. It's going to be heavy on 750. That was the way it was last season when 3 of the 4 fastest teams on 550 tracks failed to make the championship 4.
And so what's interesting is we see all the success a driver like Kyle Larson or Team Hendrick has at 550 tracks. Does any of that translate to championship hopes? Because we know it ends at Phoenix.
It can, to an extent. Again, you're padding points, you're padding stage points. Kevin Harvick put himself in a good enough position last year until it no longer proved good enough. Those swing races at Kansas and Texas in that semifinal round, you're probably not going to have to perform well. You're probably going to have to win those races. And even then, you don't want 750 being a weak link. So while we see teams strong at mile-and-a-half tracks, 550 tracks, it might mean that their focus on those tracks means it takes away from the tracks that matter towards the championship.
We'll see what happens this weekend at Atlanta. For a full discussion, it's a good one. To hear it all about the mile-and-a-half tracks, make sure you listen to this week's Positive Regression.